Welcome back to Mae Sot, Thailand. This is my last day here because I finally got my visa approval letter for my return back to Myanmar. That was a bit of an adventure. Maybe I'll talk about that later on. Yeah, all I'm doing today is I'm heading to the border with Thailand, which is about 5 or 6 kilometers away. I think I'm going to take a taxi, not in the mood to walk this morning, taking it nice and easy. And then I'm going to find a place to stay in the town on the Myanmar side of the border, which according to the map is called Myawaddy, but I hear a lot of local people just call it Myawaddy for some reason. The normal thing to do, I think, for most people would be to cross the border, then get into a share taxi to head on to Hpa An or back to Mawlamyine, something like that. But I kind of like to do things slow, and I had such a, wonderful hotel room here in Mae Sot. I ultimately moved out of my aircon room because the temperature has dropped drastically, and you don't really need air conditioning anymore. It's actually quite cold at night. And the fan-only room, this one that I'm in now, is quite a bit cheaper, almost half the price of the aircon room. So I moved into this fan-only room, and I've been quite happy here as I sorted out my credit card problems and then my Myanmar visa problems. But as I said, all of that is sorted now, so I can head back into Myanmar. So I'm gonna get out of this room. I've got my backpack over there ready to go. And I'll head down to the front desk. I think they can order a taxi for me. We'll see how that works out. When I was staying at the Sleep Nest hostel, I found out there that if they organized a tuk-tuk to the border, they charged 125 baht per person. And they would put 7 or 8 backpackers in one tuk-tuk. And I asked at the front desk here, and they said that a taxi to the border costs about 100 baht. So it's cheaper to take a private taxi to the border. Maybe I got my numbers screwed up, but head down to the front desk and see what we can work out. Who knows? Maybe I'll, at the last minute, decide just to walk to the border anyway. But it is midday, so it's a bit warm out there. So a taxi is the best option, I think. All right, time to head out and head for the border. And fingers crossed, everything goes well. Saying goodbye to my lovely room. Such a great place to stay overall. Oop, there's me, and I've got my my jailer's key, which they give you this big heavy ring so that nobody accidentally walks off with the key. That's definitely a good strategy. The fan-only room that I had here was up on the 3rd floor. And that was pretty much the only difference between it and my aircon room. That and the lack of air conditioner. And there's Mae Sot out there. I've had mainly, beautiful sunny days here. It's been really nice. Today it's a bit hazy for some reason. Maybe that's with the change of seasons. As I said, I think we're heading into a winter. It's nice and cool now. Okay, we're all set. There's 2 young guys that are at the front desk here at the first hotel. One of them, he's the usual guy, and he's a little bit more, organized, a bit snappier. I was hoping he would be at the front desk, but he seems to be on a break. And the other young guy was there. And took some convincing to, get him to help me out. But he did. He got on his phone and he called the local taxi company. They have like taxi notices right on their desk, with the phone number and everything. And then he put me on the phone with the taxi driver. And he said it cost 100 baht to go to the border. So that seems the wise thing to do today instead of walking. No sense wearing myself out. Just going to relax and enjoy this day as much as you can enjoy going through 2 sets of customs and immigration anyway. Okay, here we are at the Friendship Bridge. There goes my taxi, heading out now. And that worked out really well. He came right to my hotel within 5 minutes, 100 baht to get me here. Yeah, I noticed I've noticed this before, there's a funny psychology about walking versus driving, where when I arrived here, I walked from here to downtown Mae Sot. And I mean, it was relatively long, but it was no big deal. But now that I took the taxi back, while I was driving in the taxi, it felt like a long way. And I was thinking, man, I could never walk that far. And I've had that experience before where I walked a certain distance without any trouble, but then I've driven that same distance, and when I drove it, it seemed much farther. So there's a little bit of a trick there, a little bit of an illusion about how far things are when you're driving. Somehow it seems farther away. And I think this is the cheaper way to get here, of course. I think that costs 10 baht or something like that to pile into one of these pickup trucks. All right, time to head out of Thailand, see how this goes. So far, so good. Went through Thailand immigration. There's no real customs process to go through, just immigration. And they have a different window for everybody, all with signs in English. And there was nobody here this morning. When I came through from the other side, it was just jammed with people. So it was really kind of complicated and difficult. But today, yeah, nobody there at all. So I could just wander through. One window would be for, Thai people. One window was for Chinese people. Another for Myanmar passports. And then there was one, number 9, I guess, for foreign passports. So I think I fell into the foreign category, sort of like foreign tourist. And they have new systems these days where they take a scan of all your fingerprints. And I find that kind of interesting. I'm one of those people that reads all the signs, so I follow all the instructions carefully. They have a sign there that says you put the 4 fingers of your right hand on first, wait until it beeps, you get a green light. Then you put on all 4 fingers of your left hand, wait until it beeps, you get a green light. And then you put your 2 thumbs down, it beeps, you get a green light, and you're done. But most people don't look at the sign, so they have no idea what's going on. They're just sort of standing there looking around, and takes them forever to go through the process because the immigration person has to walk them through it. But of course, the immigration clerk is on the other side of a glass window, and communicating through that window isn't that easy, and it seems to take a lot longer. Anyway, walking across the Friendship Bridge, going over this river that separates the two countries. As I said at the beginning, I don't really know where I'm going to be staying in Myawaddy. When you go online, and look at booking.com and things like that, there aren't very many hotels listed, and they're all quite expensive. But it makes sense that a border town is going to have lots of small, ordinary hotels scattered around. I don't know how many of them allow foreigners to stay in them. So I couldn't really get any information about that. So I'll just wander around, see what I can find, knock on a few doors, find a place to stay. There's the river separating the two countries. You've got a boat down there filling up with people. I wonder if they're actually just going to go across to the other side. These border crossings are a little bit unusual that way. Like when I go through as a foreigner, a foreign tourist, it's pretty regulated, All the T's have to be crossed, every I has to be dotted. They take all of my fingerprints and check the dates for exact, day of departure. And if you overstay in Thailand, I think they charge you 500 baht per day, something like that. But at the same time, while I'm going through this process, I see all kinds of people that are doing it in a much more, casual fashion. Just sort of They just seem to be walking across the border, you know, with big baskets full of things that they're selling. So yeah, so there goes that that boat, right? And it looks like it's heading straight across the river. They got a nice landing point over there on the other side where they got some clear ground. And there's 10 people there waiting to get on to come back across. So they're all crossing the border illegally without any, you know, regulation or anything. But nobody's really that worried about them. Interesting. I'm slowly approaching the Myanmar side. So I have to get out my visa approval letter and hand that over with my passport. When I came through here, as I mentioned in my video from that experience, there was a lot of trouble with my computer record for some reason, and I don't know whether it was ever resolved. So I have to sort of be prepared for something going a bit crazy as I go back in. And I think there'll be a lot of people on the other side waiting to, you know, get me into their share taxi or change money or stuff like that. But I don't need anything like that today, I don't think. I'm just going to, as I said, find a place to stay over here for the night. Being lazy. So that's it, made it through without too much drama. There's always a bit of a funny thing at these border crossings in that you head into the official area and you see these guys, you know, with uniforms, you know, they're official immigration officers or customs officers or whoever they are. And that's all well and good. But then out of nowhere, there will always be some kind of a civilian, just a guy, just some regular, no thank you, just some kind of a regular guy in regular civilian clothes. And then he comes running up to you and starts telling you what to do. You know, he's like, oh, you have to go over here, you have to come over here, you have to fill out this form. And he's being very helpful, you know, he's actually giving you the right form, and he's giving you a pen, and he's helping you fill out the form. But the whole time you're a little bit uncomfortable because he's not official. He's just some guy in regular street clothes. And of course, you're always a little bit nervous, a little bit suspicious, and you're wondering, well, who is this guy, and why is he, you know, telling me what to do, and what is he going to want from me in advance, you know, later on? And I start thinking that, well, if this guy, there's something wrong with him, you know, if he's not supposed to be there, then why are the officials, the regular immigration clerks, the police, why are they just letting him be there? Why are they letting him hang out? So you figure if they're letting him do this, maybe he's part of the official process, or who knows? Like, how do these guys always end up inside immigration, you know, at official locations when they're not really supposed to be there at all? You know, it's kind of funny. But anyway, this guy, you know, he walked me through filling out this form. I wasn't aware we had to fill out a form. And then after filling out the form, then I had to go into this tiny little room, a mirror image of the little room I went into as I passed through to go into Thailand. And then I just had to sit down there for a few minutes, hand over my, you know, invitation letter, passport, stamp, take my picture, and then I'm out the door, and that was it. And the guy who had helped me, he did come along with me. He was like waiting for me outside the door. So he wanted to bring me to a share taxi to go on to, you know, Hpa An or Mawlamyine or something like that. But I had to tell him that, actually, I'm not going there today, I'm going tomorrow. And as soon as I said that, he was like, oh, and he kind of turned around and left. So I guess his payment for all of this was that he was going to get a commission for bringing me to the van, you know, the share taxi. He told me it would cost 13,000 chat, and I think the regular fare is 10,000. So maybe his commission is, you know, 2,000 chat per, you know, foreigner that he brings to them or something like that, which is no big deal, to be honest. Just always strikes me as a little bit funny. These guys just, they're always there. They're always hanging out and nobody shoos them away, and they're performing a function because they usually speak a relatively useful level of English whereas the immigration guys often don't speak any English at all, which is odd. So yeah, I mean, they speak English well and they're comfortable with foreigners, and they kind of, like I said, perform this service. And I guess they somehow make a little bit of money along the way. It's always an interesting experience. So here's one of the first hotels I wanted to check out, called Greenland Hotel. You know, looks quite, you know, regular old hotel. I'm not sure whether they allow foreigners to stay here. Let's go in and check the place out. Do you have any cheaper rooms than that? That's the cheapest one? Could I see it?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, great. Oh, a room at the Greenland. Okay. And the bathroom there. Looks all right. Okay. Yeah, that place seemed nice, you know. The only issue really is the room is much, much more than I need. You know, I don't need a big room with a bathroom and air conditioning. It's fancier than my needs, you know. And it was $20 a night, like 20 US per night. So I thought I'd check out one or two other places. Here's one called the Uzana Guest House. It's just across the road from Greenland. And let's go check them out. Yeah, I lost track of the local currency, so they wanted about 31,000 chat, and that works out to about $20 US per night. So let's see what the Uzana is like. Ah. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Do you have a single room?
No. Myanmar. Myanmar.
Oh, only for Myanmar people?
Yes.
Or foreigner? No?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, the Uzana Hotel looked much more suitable for me, much more my style. Kind of small, family-run, laid back, but it's only for people from Myanmar. Foreigners aren't allowed to stay there. In order for a hotel to have foreigners as a guest here, they have to have a permit from the government. And that usually means it's a little bit more of a upscale place. I think there is another hotel, a smaller local hotel down this street. And yeah, just check it out. I suspect they won't allow foreigners to stay there. I think I'm being pushed into the expensive Greenland Hotel. But we'll see. This looks like a hotel here. Wrong street. I think I have to go up another block or two to find this other hotel. It's amazing how many vehicles there are here, like how many share taxis, vans, buses, you know, all that kind of thing. The place is just jammed with them. But I don't see that many people, you know, pouring out of immigration to fill all these vans. I love the atmosphere though. So different even from Mae Sot just across the border. And like, look at all of these vans just sort of lined up waiting. Oh. Yeah, I think I found my next hotel. Again, I don't have much hope that they'll let me stay there, but we'll find out. There it is over there. It's right beside. It might be this blue building, in fact. Yeah, right there. I think that's it there. DNH Da Nahan Hotel. Let's go see what they say. This one, only Myanmar people. That was pretty funny. As I suspected, foreigners aren't allowed to stay there either. But they were so strict about this rule, I came up to the door. It's like a sliding door. So I'm opening the sliding door to go in to ask them. And a young guy came running and slammed the door shut. It was like he wouldn't even let me inside, you know? So who knows? You'd think it would be okay for me to go inside the lobby and then they could tell me, you know, no, you can't stay here. But they were so strict about it. Guy didn't even dare open the door. He, just held it closed. That was pretty funny. So it looks like if I want to stay here, I'm pretty much restricted to a more expensive hotel. So I'm gonna just go back to Greenland. No choice. I have to say, I really like the atmosphere over here. It's funny, I just, traveled a kilometer across the Friendship Bridge, but once you're in another country, even though they're so close together, completely different atmosphere. I mean, here, there's just a lot more going on the streets, and people are just interested in me and what I'm doing. And of course, in Mae Sot, nobody cared. Everybody in Thailand has their own lives going on. They've got more than enough happening. So me as a foreigner wandering around Mae Sot, nobody really cares one way or the other. But here, people are smiling at me left, right, and center, So here's my luxurious Greenland Hotel. It's the only place in town so far that will accept me. So I think I'll just grab a room here. So I'm here in my new room, the Greenland Hotel in Myawaddy. Yeah, a little stroll around. I checked out, I guess, 3 other hotels that are in the same neighborhood, and all 3 of them basically said no foreigners can stay here. And as I said, one of them was so panic-stricken, they ran to block the door before I could even get into the lobby. So I guess it's that serious. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, just to hop across the border and things change so much. And the comparison even continues into the hotel, because this hotel is kind of on the same scale as the one I was staying in Mae Sot. Big room, 2 twin beds, air conditioning, mini fridge, TV, phone, all these things I don't need, but I keep ending up with them anyway. So it's like the same scale of hotel, but here it's 2-3 times more expensive than the one in Mae Sot. And checking in was a very different experience. On the one hand, it's much more official. I had to fill out an official foreigner in Myanmar registration card. This wasn't for the hotel, this was for the police or whoever checks up on these things, with my name and passport number and expiry dates, visa number, visa start date, expiry date, my onward destination, all the information about me, and this all goes to the government in some way. Whereas in Mae Sot, checking in was just, hi, I'd like a room, and they gave me the key. There was like no worry at all. I didn't have to check in at all. They didn't even look at my passport or make a copy of anything. But here, of course, much more official. But on the other side of things, in Mae Sot, once I had paid for the room, I was pretty much on my own. The young guys that were staffing the desk, they spent, I would say, 95% of their time talking to somebody on their phone. I mean, they were on the phone with earbuds in, talking hour after hour after hour, every day. Every time I went in and out of the hotel, they were just sitting there talking to somebody on the phone. I have no idea who they were talking to, but they were talking to somebody. And on the rare occasion when I needed to speak with them, I had to pay for another night or something like that, I'd go up to the desk, and they would just sit there looking down at their phone, and they would start picking their nose, with their fingers. And not looking up at all. And I would finally have to kind of lean down and get in their field of view and go, and then they kind of look up at me, and then they point at the phone and say, I'm talking on the phone. And they would just go back to their conversation and ignore me completely. And I find that's the general attitude in Thailand overall, It's just the way things are there. But when I came here, from the government side of things, very strict, very rigorous. No, you can't stay in this hotel. You can't stay in this one. You have to stay in this one. You must fill out this form for the police, including your visa number and expiry date. But I had like 3 guys helping me, like eager, like standing at attention. They grabbed all my bags, carried them up to the room. They brought up a pot of hot water with tea and all that kind of thing. So they were smiling the whole time, and they were friendly and welcoming. Totally different atmosphere from Thailand. So yeah, big difference, just changing from one city to the next. So time to unpack and get organized in here. Well, I settled into my hotel room. It's now a little bit later in the afternoon, just went out for a walk. I wasn't going to do it, but I decided to hit up an ATM here to get some cash. I don't like using ATMs like in a border town, like right at a border crossing. Always seems to be the most chaotic sort of place to do it, where there might be a security problem, but I don't know. Thought I would do it. I found a bank that seemed nice and secure, had some security guards sitting right there, nice new machines, and everything worked out well. So I have money. That worked out pretty well. The transportation situation here is kind of confusing, as always. It's one of those situations where all the local people just know everything by instinct. Like the vans on that side of the street on that block will be going to that city. The vans over here on this side will be going to a different city. Everyone just knows this stuff, so they don't need to have any signs or anything like that. And then whenever I go up to ask people questions about, where does this van go, where does this bus go, they kind of give me the no, and wave me away, just because they don't want to deal with me. So it's hard to get information. And you could probably spend a lifetime here as a foreigner, and you would still never quite figure it out. There's a transportation office right across the street from my hotel. And they had a nice sign up there that had the names of all the places where I assume they go to. And one of them was Hpa An. It's like you go to Mawlamyine, Yangon, Hpa An, wherever you want to go. So I thought, oh, that's pretty handy. So I just walked up to the woman at the desk, where they're selling tickets, and kind of asked her in sign language and simple English, Hpa An, van, share taxi to Hpa An. And she just waved me off and said, no. And I pointed to the name Hpa An on the sign, to indicate to her that, well, your sign, no, thank you. That her sign says Hpa An, and she just says, no, and waved me away. That was earlier, before I checked into the hotel. But just now, as I was leaving to go to the ATM, there was a van sitting outside this exact same spot, and there was a man there loading up luggage and passengers. And he turned to me and said, oh, Hpa An, do you want to go to Hpa An? And I says, yeah, maybe tomorrow. He says, oh yeah, just come here, come here, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, anytime. We always have vans going to Hpa An right here. And the same woman who had waved me away and said, no to Hpa An, she was still sitting there at the counter. So who knows why she says no, but the man says yes. You never know. You'll never know what is going on. I like this town, though. Just feels welcoming, feels nice, feels interesting. All those things wrapped up into one. I'm much more comfortable here than I was in Mae Sot, for example. Kind of talked about that earlier. The difference in tone, between Thailand and Myanmar. Myanmar is more my kind of place. And this is the other place that I heard about that allows foreigners to stay. This big hotel right across the road called the Myawaddy Hotel. You can actually find some reviews of that place online. Looks like my kind of place. Most of the reviews are negative, though, about value for money and poor service, and everything's kind of dirty and broken down. which would be fine with me, except that I think they charge a lot of money too for that place. It's quite expensive. So I'm not going anywhere in particular. Just thought I'd go for a walk up the street, take a look around. Only Myanmar people? Hello. Is this hotel only Myanmar people? Or?
Yeah.
Like foreigner? No.
No.
Okay. Thank you.